Today, we are breaking down a 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft brought to us by formerly Pro Football Network. Apparently, it's called Pro Football Sports Network. Let's jump right into this. Of course, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I make content like this every single week, multiple times a week. We actually might be branching off into some new fun stuff soon, but running back rankings should be coming out in the next week. Getting all the guys ready. It's going to be great. It's going to be super exciting. If you guys have not already seen the tight end rankings and below my face, you're like, what the hell is that board? It is exactly all the players that I have up on the show right now. And if you guys want access to the full board as well as all of my draft evaluations, you can watch the videos, but you get even more in-depth access by being able to go over to that Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you get access to the board. You get access to the overall draft analysis, as well as special extended videos where instead of going to top 15 tight ends, I went to top 26. Gonna be doing the exact same thing for the running backs, where probably do a top 15 on the show, maybe do a top 30 over there. So get excited for that. But let's get into this, starting out with the number one overall pick. I'm not going to get into draft order and such. I probably will complain about it once or twice, but Cleveland Browns go Arch Manning. Highly doubt that he's going to come out, but I do think if he ends up winning the Heisman, winning the Natty, then there is a small percentage chance this is possible. Arch Manning's a fantastic quarterback. Honestly, he ended up blowing my expectations away. I personally was a little bit concerned of him of basically getting into the nepotism of everything where this guy gets artificially boosted because of that last name. But I do think his talent shines through it all. And I think he's going to be a really damn good quarterback. So if he does come out, the Cleveland Browns would be dumb to go anywhere but Arch Manning, unless they think LaNorris Sellers is as good as I think he is. But again, with a name like that as well, if you have the talent, you have the pedigree, it's hard to fail. And in the NFL, if you have a high ceiling, a high floor, understandable to take over a guy who has a little bit lower of a floor, a higher ceiling. And number two, the New York Jets go Cade Klubnik, quarterback out of Clemson. Cade is the highest floor quarterback in the class. He does everything well. And maybe nothing really extremely well, but the thing I love the most about him, similar to Drew Aller, is the progression year over year. Cade Klubnik really did take a big step up, and I'm a huge fan of seeing that. I do worry that the Jets will be in this range. They have a good defense. They have a young coach, or in terms of experience as a head coach, and you know that's about it. Like, that's the positives that are going towards the Jets right now. Unfortunately, the weaponry that they have is either questionable or else it's pretty much just Garrett Wilson. So you have a lot of concerns there. The offensive line is actually being improved, but it's still very, very young. But the quarterback position is the biggest one, and Cade Klubnik can definitely bring some stability there at the most valuable position in the NFL. I'm a fan of that. At number three, we got the New Orleans Saints going TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. The more I watch players go versus Clemson, the more TJ Parker pops. I used to kind of criticize this, but a lot of people are concerned with his play strength. I'm just going to be real. He gets past pretty much every offensive lineman that I've seen. Granted, I am not necessarily watching the offensive lineman versus TJ Parker. I'm either watching a quarterback, a running back, or a receiver, or a tight end, because that is exactly what I've gone through. But let's get on with it. I do think the Saints going after a top tier edge rusher at 3 is improbable. They would probably go after a quarterback because, well, I mean, Daddy Nussmeier's on the squad, so I do think that Garrett Nussmeier would be in the consideration unless the writer of this, which, by the way, I was looking for it. I could not see. It says Wiseman in the top here, so maybe that's it. But I couldn't see anybody get credited for it off the top. But I do think that unless whoever wrote this article is also not a fan of Garrett Nussmeier, there's probably going to be, this is where nepotism will come into play. But regardless, number 3 overall, TJ Parker, he's a good player. I just don't really think the fit with the Saints is necessarily the most realistic thing. Again, talking about realism this far out, probably not the best idea. But at the same time, I like to treat this as seriously as possible. Also, we can have some fun. But at the same time, you guys are here because you want to understand, well, what should I be expecting? What should I get excited for, more importantly? And, it's also good to sprinkle in some realism in there. Number 4, the Tennessee Titans go after an edge rusher as well, and Ruben Bain Jr. He's 275 pounds. This guy's an absolute beast. A little bit different of an archetype than Oluwafemi Oladejo, but at the same time, you can't really be mad with lightning and thunder. I think Ruben Bain's fantastic. I've taken him to the Titans multiple times in my way too early mock drafts, and probably not going to change anytime soon. At number 5, the New York Giants go after another developmental Alabama offensive tackle in Caden Proctor. Caden he just reminds me so much of Evan Neal when Evan Neal was going into his final year. And that scares the shit out of me because I loved Evan Neal. The problem with Caden Proctor is that he has the size, he has the athleticism, and like he really is special in that category. But there's just something about his game that has not clicked yet. And that scares the shit out of me if he's going to go to the next level and he has those issues coming from a school that so far hasn't really produced a lot of top end talent in recent memory that have those same issues. I think JC Latham has been a huge surprise so far and a very pleasant one. But Caden Proctor is not built like JC Latham. JC Latham was an absolute power freak. Caden Proctor is like damn near a finesse tackle at 6'7", 360. Like he is hyper mobile. And it's just there's a lot of issues that come to play with that. He's just a weird, unique build. But if it works, my God, you have a superstar. But again, you also would possibly have to switch him back to right tackle. He has been the left. I highly doubt that they're going to seek him to be a right tackle anytime in the future, unless maybe some of the right tackles get hurt and they see Caden Proctor as the best guy to fill in there if they have a good backup there at Bama, which I assume they do. But yeah, I don't like the move personally. If the Giants are picking at number 5, the front office is fired, and then they're probably going to be going after their own quarterback with the new front office, even though you ended up having your quarterback situation addressed in the first round in this most recent year. I do have to say, new regime changes do not give a damn. At number 6, Carolina Panthers go after Spencer Fano, right tackle out of Utah. You guess you're going to be, getting a little bit ahead of the age curve there at right tackle to Moton. I don't really think that would be the route they would go, but it's not impossible. I mean, I definitely think within the 3 rounds, a right tackle is certainly reasonable. So I guess it's not, insane to say, hey, at number 6, we can end up taking a player who I do think he has some pretty bad arm length concerns. Some people think he's a true guard, but I will say statistically through the roof. And he's a really good run blocker. So I'm excited to see more Spencer Fano. We'll see how it all ends up shaking out. At number 7, the Colts go Garrett Nussmeier. So, definitely looping back to pick number 3, where a team that literally has the father of Garrett Nussmeier on it, passing on him for an edge rusher. It just doesn't really make much sense through the lens of the writer for this. Basically, he believes Garrett Nussmeier is a top 10 pick. Probably would go to the spot where his dad is. But regardless, the Colts, if they're sitting at number 7, I do think they would be going after a quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier could definitely be the higher floor or higher ceiling, version of Daniel Jones. I'm not a big Garrett Nussmeier guy. If you guys are understanding that from my tonality, I think Garrett Nussmeier does not get remotely enough criticism for the actual flaws in his game. I don't know why. It's a weird thing. People just think Garrett Nussmeier is the next greatest thing since sliced bread. But in fact, he was not the best quarterback in a very weak quarterback class. Now, he'll have an extra year development, which I think he needs, and I think he'll be a lot better than what he was coming out this year. But I do heavily worry that people don't look at his weight. The guy is one of the lightest quarterbacks in the class if his statistical weight is correct. He's 200 flat. No one's really talking about that, but that's a horribly small frame to have. And if I'm not mistaken, that's in the 10th percentile of NFL quarterbacks, if not even lower than that. But he has a pretty damn awesome arm when it ends up connecting in terms of layer passes. Makes some of the rarest throws that you'll see, but he'll also make some of the dumbest throws that you'll see. And I also think on a throw-by-throw basis, his arm gets a little too little criticism because I don't think it has the actual velocity that some people think it does. I think he has to put a little bit more juice into it than maybe some suggest. But for the Colts, in terms of what they've had in terms of the platform, you're looking at a better version of Riley Leonard. If Garrett Nussmeier can improve the decision making, you're pretty much going to get yourself perfectly set with exactly what the organization has been looking for. At number 8, we got the Cleveland Browns going Caleb Downs, defensive back out of Ohio State. He is so damn good. I mean, Caleb Downs will eventually be my number 2 overall player. I will be bumping Jordan Tyson down as well as the majority of the receivers. Since probably not too many of y'all who are not fans of the show are watching, I'm basically shifting because my wide receiver grades, when even in the video as well, were specifically for role specific grades. And I liked how the order ended up coming out, absolutely. But I do think it's a little bit more realistic to have it as partially influencing. So I have an overall wide receiver grade. I don't think every receiver is going to stack up to it. I think NFL offices will use them in the right way, but they're not going to play a deep threat every single play. So they shouldn't be graded solely as a deep threat, if you get what I'm saying. So I would say blending those two together is slightly bumps down some guys, but it makes it a lot more realistic and a lot more palatable for me when I end up looking at the rankings after the fact. So get excited for that as well. Doing the same thing with cornerbacks. But regardless, Caleb Downs will end up being my number 2 player in the class. I mean, the only time he ends up failing is when he is not in the zone. And the only reason he's not in the zone is because he might second guess himself, not because he doesn't have the talent to do it. And that's an insane trait to have. Like, the worst plays that you have is when you just try too hard and you kind of like just overthink it. It's incredible because like 95% of the plays, he's just spot on. So I do think he's going to be incredible. And, Cleveland Browns would absolutely benefit from taking him at number 8. At number 9, we have the Las Vegas Raiders going Peter Woods, defensive interior out of Clemson. Peter Woods is a really good player too. I see him block shedding every damn offensive lineman I see. And again, I'm not necessarily watching Peter Woods every single second, which I will be getting to that. Edge rusher and defensive interior are next after running back. Some people say I should do offensive line. Honestly, the fact that I want to continue digging into this Clemson defensive front, I have to do it, but I have to go after defensive line. But I've watched a ton of teams go up against Clemson's defense, and Peter Woods, TJ Parker, both those guys pop. So, they definitely have that it factor to them. For the Raiders, do I think a defensive interior is where they'd end up getting the most bang for their buck at number 9? No. But at the same time, if you're going to get yourself a star on the interior, instant interior pressure is one of the best ways to cause mayhem. At number 10, we have the Los Angeles Rams going LaNorris Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina. LaNorris is the best quarterback that I've studied in terms of ceiling. I do think that he could end up being a combination of Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton. And I'm not saying that just to be contrarian, because, I mean, again, I easily could, because that kind of is my comp for him. But at the same time, I do know that there is a massive mental block there for LaNorris Sellers in terms of timing. That's going to be a big issue in the NFL. And I think I might end up boosting how important timing is in terms of my grading, because you do need to throw on time in the NFL. If you're throwing off time, like you're throwing off schedule, you're going to throw interceptions, because even if you make the right read and just throw at the wrong time, defenders know what the right read is as well. And they're athletic enough to take advantage of a quarterback that can't throw at the correct time. So regardless, that's like the big Achilles heel for LaNorris Sellers. We'll see if it ends up coming back to bite him. But I do think that, quarterback guru like Sean McVay would absolutely love a superstar like Sellers. Number 11, we got the Arizona Cardinals going Antonio Williams. I just don't think the Cardinals are going to be continuing to spend first-round picks on wide receivers. I just don't. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to rise up. He's going to be a star just the way that we thought he would. He just took an extra year to get into it. Antonio Williams is great. I can't blame y'all for loving him. He's right now, of course, again, take it into account that I've only graded a couple positions. Right now, he is the 8th best player that I've graded. And I do believe he actually ends up moving up slightly. But regardless, he is a very, and I mean very good wide receiver. If you do end up making this move, you're going to have one of the most lethal wide receiver cores in the NFL. That being said, I don't see the amount of targets to make this worth it, unless you're not going to bring back Michael Wilson, or I think Michael Wilson has one more year after this, but unless Michael Wilson is not in the future plans where you're going to just have Antonio Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. be the top 2 at the wide receiver position, then maybe you could convince me. But I don't think there's enough targets to justify a number 11 pick. At number 12, we got the Dallas Cowboys going Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love is consensus top running back, and honestly, I don't blame y'all. He will not be my top running back, but he is damn close. There are just a couple of players that I think haven't been looked at seriously enough, and I think they'll end up taking massive steps up in terms of the overall view from the consensus. But Jeremiah Love is absolutely adequate as a top running back in the class. I will not shame anyone for ever thinking that he is. The one thing I want him to do a little bit more is convert those missed tackle attempts to missed tackles forced. I just don't really think he breaks tackles at an NFL level just yet. But once he does, I mean, this guy damn near could be unstoppable. So he is really top tier. In the past draft, I think he would end up being my RB3. You guys know how much I love Amari Hampton, but Jeremiah Love to the Cowboys would be an excellent move. I just have some other guys that Spoiler alert, I will like equally, if not just a little bit more. At 13, we got the Miami Dolphins going DJ McKinney, cornerback out of Colorado. He actually dropped some weight. Not a fan of that. And so that's what makes me really worry about it. But cornerback for the Dolphins makes a ton of sense. Since this is 100 picks, I will be starting to speed this up just a little bit more. New England Patriots go Mateo Uiagalelei, edge rusher out of Oregon. I love Oregon defensive linemen. It's just a thing for me. And Mateo had a lot of production. That is perfectly fine to say that this guy could be a first round pick. New England easily could have the biggest need as their edge rushing core. Not going to say no. So I don't think that, this is out of the realm of possibility. Mateo had really good statistics, and I think he can end up being a star there with, losing out on Jordan Birch to the NFL, speaking of the Cardinals that we just talked about a couple of times ago. But New England Patriots going after an edge rusher, very possible if Swinson ends up having some issues or ends up being why he ended up falling to the 5th round. At 15, we got the Seattle Seahawks going CC Francis Mauigoa, a tackle out of Miami. I mean, a lot of people I know have him as their top or one of the top tackles in the class, and he's extremely mobile. He's a very fun player to watch. I will just say it makes me feel a lot better now that I'm looking at how everyone's viewing Francis Mauigoa when I ended up falling in love with Eagles edge rusher Antoine Powell-Ryland, who had a fantastic day versus the Miami tackles. So, I mean, it's just showing that iron sharpens iron, and I thought that was a really good matchup. Right tackle absolutely could be in question for the long run. If they're at number 15 overall, it might not be worth it to pay a lot of money to Abe Lucas if he continues having some struggles with his overall health. I do think that there definitely could be an upgrade to be had at right tackle, and Francis could be that. At 16, you got the Chicago Bears going Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon, formerly out of Purdue. Good player. Honestly, he's just a really high floor guy. I mean, he ended up performing extremely well as a true freshman. Ended up having a little bit of a down year as a sophomore, but to be fair, who on Purdue didn't? I think that's fair to say as well. I think that the Thieneman at Oregon is going to take a meteoric rise and definitely will be worth that probably top 20 to top 30, or excuse me, top 20 to top 15 pick, which is right in line with where the Bears will be, since I do think their safety core might be one of the biggest areas for improvement. At 17, you got the Houston Texans going Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. In my cornerback video, again, make sure, guys, if you do ever watch these videos, to look at the description. For Jermod, while I was watching some other players, I did feel like I ended up undergrading or undervaluing his athletic score comparatively to what my eyes initially saw. The more I watched players go against him, the more I liked his athleticism. So I boosted a little bit. And currently speaking, he is, honestly forgetting there he is at number 26 on my board. He's a very good player. I gave him a little bit too much shit, but he did tear his ACL in January. We'll see if that ends up hampering his athleticism overall, because I do think that even though I give it more credit than what I used to, I still think that it might end up being a handicap compared to being able to guard all types of wide receivers. But for the Texans, I don't really see boundary corner 2 being remotely worth it. I do think this is one of the picks that makes no sense, but I still want to give credit to Jermod McCoy. Then you got the Vikings going Jalen Kilgore. I think this is such a lazy move. I'm just going to be completely honest. Jalen Kilgore, the more I watch him, the less I like him. He is a safety. He plays in the slot. I thought he was a slot corner until you start looking at the weight, you start looking at his play style, and it's like, okay, well, first I was like, is he going to be an Eamon Warry level freak? No. And for the Vikings, I don't understand why you'd go after a safety / slot hybrid. If you honestly swapped these two, maybe you can make me believe that you want a longer term Chauncey. Again, you're not going to sell me on Jalen Kilgore in the first, but I'm saying there's a better argument than corner for the Texans and safety / slot for the Vikings. And you could have Jermod McCoy here for the Vikings. That would make a little bit more sense. But from what I've seen, Jalen Kilgore did not wow me in any way, shape, or form. Don't know why he's considered a first rounder at the moment, but again, there's a lot of players who we think could be first that will end up falling, sadly, far from it. At 19, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers going Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. Continues to get better every year. I was a huge fan of him to the Steelers this past year before he ended up returning. I think returning was the best move he could have made. You see progression year over year. It's incredible. He is not there yet, which is why I wanted him to go back to school. And I'm hoping we still continue to see that trend. But, I mean, he's built to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's big. He's young. He has a cannon arm, and he's built to play in Pennsylvania. So I would be pretty happy if the Steelers at 19 ended up going after Drew Aller. At 20, you got the Broncos going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end of Oregon. Again, just a reminder that my tight end video is up. And some of y'all were like, where's this guy? Where's this guy? I graded 26 of them. Pretty much all of the ones that you mentioned are unfortunately after that 15th mark. So Kenyon Sadiq, though, number 1 tight end in the class. This guy's an absolute beast. Amazing after the catch. Great athlete. Up there with the best tight ends I've studied. Like, he is very, very dynamic. And I think he can end up being a true superstar. Amazing fit there with Denver as well. 21, we got the Buccaneers going after Caleb Banks, defensive interior out of Florida. First off, they just went to Florida as well and got Desmond Watson, the wall of meat that he is. But on top of that, Caleb Banks would be a freaky weapon for the Buccaneers to use. I don't really know where the payoff would be in terms of the reps. I do think the defensive interior is relatively solid as it is, so I don't really think there's much of a need there. I do think edge rusher would be a better move, but sometimes BPA is the best way to go, and Caleb Banks could end up being worth a top 5 selection. At 22, we got the Los Angeles Chargers going Denzel Boston. He's a wide receiver out of Washington. For those of y'all who are listening to the audio, I kind of forgot about the fact I have an audio version of this as well. If you guys end up like listening in the car, do not feel the need to listen while having the YouTube app open and being distracted. That you can actually easily do this on Spotify as well as Apple Music, because ended up actually putting it out over there. So feel free to go check that out as well. But Denzel Boston, to me, doesn't really provide anything to this offense. I mean, Quentin Johnston pretty much kind of would be what I'd want from Denzel Boston outside of the drop issue. But, I mean, he's a solid receiver who is like a vertical threat as a big-bodied receiver. I just basically called him a shitty version of Tetairoa McMillan. And that's a kind of a compliment, but it's not worth the number 22 pick to me. At 23, we got the Green Bay Packers going AlexCBarbour, tackle out of Florida. Heard that he was actually really good early in his career as a right tackle as well, so I like the flexibility. Fits with the Green Bay Packers mantra, which is like flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. We'll see what they end up doing in terms of trying to retain 1 or 2 tackles, like TBD. But AlexCBarbour, if 1 tackle spot is open, has shown that he has a lot of SEC experience and has performed really, really well. At 24, the Los Angeles Rams go Avion Trell, cornerback out of Clemson. I think the Rams have absolutely killed it with both I think Avion might end up being my corner 1. But, I mean, he's tied right now to be my corner 1 as it is. Who gives a damn? But, I mean, pretty much my corner 1 and my quarterback 1. I think that's a great haul for a team that would probably need a quarterback as well as a corner. Avion Trell might be 180, but he plays like he's like 195, 200, but he still moves like he's 180. That's a dream to have. At 25, you got the San Francisco 49ers going Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon, formerly out of Nevada. He's a really solid player. I do think that there's going to be a learning curve there at Oregon. So my biggest telltale sign as to whether I trust World to work is how quickly do you acclimate to the Big Ten? And if it does well, I think he's going to go a lot earlier than number 25. But if not, maybe this is going to be a good opportunity to try to maximize a player that needed a little bit more. Number 26, you got the Cincinnati Bengals going Will Lee, cornerback out of Texas A&M, I believe formerly of Kansas State. Will Lee is a solid player. He has good arm length. He has good size. I just think that not necessarily the most exciting player to watch at corner. He feels like a really solid early day 3 corner. That's not something I get excited about 26. So we'll see if it ends up working out for him. I'd be very happy to be proven wrong. You guys know me. I love my corners. At 27, we got the Washington Commanders going Nick Singleton, running back out of Penn State. I'm just going to be completely honest here. Y'all love whenever I get ready to tee up a ball by saying that. There are people I really respect in the industry, and they love Nick Singleton. And I'm praying they're right. I've watched Nick Singleton this time probably 6 times over. And not saying 6 games. I'm talking about I've regraded him 6 times. Not just this year. I'm talking about because he was supposed to come out last year and stuff. I can't get it. I don't get it with him. I legitimately see someone who might be one of the worst running backs in the draft. Not in the country, because he's a really good college back. But in terms of translating, I just don't see it. And I really want to. So it just sucks. But I mean, this is a realistic pick based on what people believe. I just don't see it. So I'm hoping I'm wrong, especially for the Commanders' sake. I would like for them to have a good running back. But yeah, I mean, I would prefer to have Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt over Nicholas Singleton. I'll put it out there right now. I mean, 1 year of experience might change my mind, but regardless, at number 28, the Baltimore Ravens go Jordan Tyson, wide receiver to Arizona State. You see him at number 2 on my board. You know exactly what I think. I also believe that the Ravens should be continuing to throw everything they can at the wall and see what sticks in terms of wide receiver, because some things have started to work, and I still think that Jordan Tyson would end up making it work even better. At 29, we got the Detroit Lions going CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Good linebacker, consensus top 2 linebacker in the class at the moment. TBD, I'm not getting into the linebacker class just yet, but I mean, he has popped off to me while watching other players. That's a good sign, and so I think that's perfectly reasonable. At 30, we got the Buffalo Bills. Their tongue twister, apparently. Going LT Overton, edge rusher of Alabama. He's 280 pounds. He's an absolute beast. Needed a bit more development and took a massive step up from being at Texas A&M. I think this could be I think he could be long gone by this point, but great move by the Bills nonetheless. I think continuing to overload an edge, never a bad idea. Like, it's kind of hard to say it's a bad idea. So, big fan of that. They overhauled the corner core. I think it's time to overhaul the edge core. At number 31, we got the Kansas City Chiefs going after Chandler Rivers, cornerback out of Duke. He's just too small for me. Not the best athlete, very smart, but I would say I have a bit of a concern with Chandler Rivers, and it's because I used to love I do love Chandler Rivers. The problem is just for some reason people haven't gotten deep enough into the class maybe to where they think Chandler Rivers is a first round pick, and it's like, we're at that phase where it's like the players I used to root for, I'm like, damn, I really like this Chandler Rivers cat. All of a sudden you're like, damn, can't really love him like that anymore because I all of a sudden am not at the consensus level. But I haven't seen too many people put Chandler in the first. I don't think it's the right move for the Chiefs. Just going to be honest, that's just where I'm at. Number 32, we got the Eagles going Christian Miller, defensive interior out of Georgia. People just love to throw Georgia defensive interiors at the Eagles, and all their mock drafts kind of feels like copy paste at the moment, which is funny because there's not that many mock drafts coming out, but I swear every single one has like Christian Miller to the damn Eagles. But it just depends. If Moro Jomo ends up popping off, he's getting a contract. I mean, unless he's going to get 26 mil a year. But I mean, I think that there's going to be a bit of a difficulty trying to fill that gap with another first round player if you end up seeing some success, which if you win the Super Bowl, probably saw some success. So filling it with another first round player, I don't know if I necessarily co-sign on that. And number 33, beginning round number 2, we got the Browns going Emmanuel Pregnant, guard out of Oregon. A lot of people have a lot of faith in the interior offensive lineman from Oregon. I'm going to be honest. I mean, they block really well. I mean, Jordan Whittington is a fantastic one-cut back, and you need to have good blocking for those guys to maximize their ability, and I think they did it well. Could be I could be on board with this. I do think that guard, not really the highest priority position, but if you get great players at it, it's just nice to give your quarterback everything and anything that they absolutely want. 34, you got the Jets going Denis Dennis Sutton, edge rusher out of Penn State. I mean, I don't think the Jets need to go after more edge. Personally, I think Denis is definitely great value here, but he's just somebody that still is very raw, and it just doesn't move the needle for me for the Jets. At number 35, we got the New Orleans Saints going Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. Very fun quarterback from Cal. He's my number 3 quarterback in the class. I do think that there is a legit bust factor to him, which, I mean, now if you look back on it, like you end up getting a top-end edge rusher and a top-end quarterback. I still think Daddy Nussmeier would say, why the hell am I getting TJ Parker when I can get my son? That's just my headspace, but I do think they ended up coming out with a better solution or a better outcome with these guys. Number 36, you got the Tennessee Titans going Carnell Tate. Just such a high floor receiver. You can't go wrong with Carnell Tate. I just think people are going to inflate their expectations too much, and that's the problem with him. He's just a really solid receiver. Not much more. At number 37, we got the New York Giants going Max Clare, tight end at Ohio State, formerly Purdue. He's a really good receiving tight end. Problem is 236. It's going to be very tough to justify being able to take him this early, but he's a damn good talent. I can't blame you, but I would just say, like, he's right now probably going to be around that 50 range, which, I mean, again, you're at right near the 40 range, but that's more of a nitpick than anything. Number 38, the Carolina Panthers go after Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. They just went after Umami Ellen as well. as why am I forgetting? Nick Scordon. I don't know if they're gonna focus on edge rusher. Like going twice in the trenches just feels a little bit much, but Keldrick Falk is a consensus first round player. Sometimes you just got to go BPA. Number 39, we got the Colts going Blake Miller, right tackle out of Clemson. He's just such a high floor player. I think that's perfectly fine, especially with the questions in terms of the future at right tackle. I'm not going to blame him for that one. And number 40, you got the Jaguars going another linebacker. They love their linebackers in like the first, second round territory. You got Deontay Lawson, linebacker of Alabama. I love Deontay Lawson. I think that in terms of being a pure linebacker, he could be better than Jahad Campbell. But Jahad Campbell went to the best possible spot for him to go to. I think Vic Fangio is the dream location for him to be. So, I think Deontay would end up having a worse career. But I do think in terms of just the pure linebacker talent, Deontay has those flashes that are just jaw-dropping. Unfortunately, this just came out. You guys can check it with me. Pretty sure it just came out because I've been lurking to get one of these mock drafts. Yeah, June 14th. It's June 17th. It's unfortunate. I want to love this mock draft because it makes it more fun for you. It makes it more fun for me. Maybe it doesn't make it more fun for you. You guys like hearing me tear shit apart. But Evan Stewart's probably not going to play this year. To put him in the second round, we've known about this for over a week. It's just come on. It's not a 7-round mock. I understand if it's a 7, you probably have had everything locked in and it's very tough to shift. But obviously, I'm just going to pretend like that didn't happen. Falcons go after Damani Jackson, cornerback out of Alabama at 42. He is a really solid corner who's just improved noticeably from USC to, he stumbled first at Alabama, bounced back and improved. I like someone who could end up, even in the same season, showing tremendous growth. And his dad follows me on Twitter, so gives him a little extra bonus points. But I do think a boundary corner is great for the Falcons. Number 43, you got the Cardinals going after the other tackle from Utah, Caleb Lamu. Really fun player. Again, I can't really go much beyond that because I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. Haven't studied the tackle class, but I've studied running backs, I've studied quarterbacks, I've studied tight ends, I've studied wide receivers, studied cornerbacks. I have experience looking at these players. So I would just say I don't want to give in-depth analysis because I don't have that for you. My big thing is integrity. So that's why I show you guys the players that I've watched. But at the same time, I do know enough about these players to actually be able to say something. Otherwise, I wouldn't make this video. Number 44, we got the Cowboys going to Carrio Davis. He got up to 200 pounds, already at 190. He just did not have the athleticism to make it. I do not think he's an NFL player. And that breaks my heart because 2 years ago, I ended up having him as a projected top 10 player on my board. That's how much I love him. It literally hurts me so much. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's just transitioning to safety at this point. 45, we got the Miami Dolphins going Nick Anderson, wide receiver at LSU. He's a big X receiver. We'll see if he ends up coming back off that early season-ending injury as healthy as what he was in 2023. If he is, there's a chance he's going to be a really big contributor for LSU. Not many guys to be able to share the role in terms of targets for contested catches that Nick Anderson will have there at LSU. You have Aaron Anderson, you have Barry and Brown. Those are the biggest competition for him at the moment, and those guys are not remotely the same build. So, but for the Dolphins, applicably, I don't really think that Anderson provides much in terms of that Shanahan-style offense. If you are picking that early, there's a chance that you do have a new offensive system in terms of the whole entire thing kind of getting blown up. Number 46, we got the New England Patriots going Anthony Hill Jr. Some people have Anthony Hill as high as number 5 overall, so I think this is solid value there. And the Patriots could absolutely continue to retool their linebacking core. I don't think this is a bad move at all. Seahawks go A.J. Harris, cornerback out of Penn State at 47. Boundary corner 2 is very underrated as a need for the Seahawks. I thought they were going to address it this past year. They did not. I would not be too surprised to see them do it in the early rounds of this coming up year. And number 48, we have the Chicago Bears going Tyreek Sapp, edge rusher out of Florida. Another player who's in that 270 range, but I think it's a great pairing to have that lightning and thunder approach with Montez Sweat and the rest of the squad. And I think Tyreek Sapp, I ended up actually posting about him on X because he had some real dominant reps and ended up actually clipping one of them just because it was that good. He is that dominant off the snap. So excited to see him on his own there this next year because Oh, some good defensive talent ended up leaving Florida. There's going to be more of a spotlight on Banks and DeSapp. Number 49, we have the Houston Texans going Mekhi Hughes, running back out of Oregon, transfer from Tulane. Mekhi's a really good back. Again, I don't want to spoil too much for what's coming up in the next week. He's just somebody who I think is going to be a really, really good running back and a very good fit there for the Texans. I think that it's kind of sad to see what happened to Dameon Pierce, but I think Mekhi Hughes might be what could have been with Dameon Pierce. Number 50, we have the Minnesota Vikings going Jack Velling, tight end on Michigan State. Again, gonna push you guys over to the Patreon. There he is. He has a full breakdown over there. You guys can go check that out. It's part of the extended tight end, the tight end rankings video. So feel free to again go check that out. If you guys do have the premium membership, which is $5 a month, you guys end up actually getting access to all the premium videos, my board, all the breakdowns. Everything's open to you guys. I have a $10 tier. Do not sign up for that. I'll be posting all 22 tape studies in the future for you guys to be able to take advantage of that. But I do want you guys to have access to that ability, to have access to in-depth analysis on these guys, which Jack Velling, he's a fun player, but just he's like a bad version of Colston Loveland, in my opinion. And it's a good player to have, just not in the second round for me. At 51, the Steelers go after Eric Singleton Jr., wide receiver at Auburn, formerly Georgia Tech. I mean, he is as Georgia Tech as it gets, blazing speed, a dynamic athlete, but he's a little bit undersized. I do think this is very similar to Calvin Austin's role. That being said, that doesn't mean that it's not able to be replaced. Eric Singleton's a good player. Number 52, we have the Denver Broncos and Parker Brailsford, defensive interior. Jesus, dude. It's a long day. All right. It's a long day. Parker Brailsford, center out of Alabama. He's a really good player as well. A lot of these guys are good players. Take a shot every time I say it. But Parker Brailsford has been dominant at his size. He was 275 and he got to 290. So like there were some hiccups there for sure last year. Wasn't the player he was at Washington, but I do think that takes a lot of getting used to when you are gaining that notable amount of weight in terms of percentage. That's like the equivalent going from 300 to 320. It's tough. So I'm giving him another year. I do think he'll be worth that second round pick. And interior offensive line help is never a bad idea. 53, speaking of interior offensive line help, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going Jaden Roberts, guard out of Alabama. He has tackle potential. He is very strong. The problem is the guy just whiffs way too hard. He needs a lot more experience to kind of just calm and slow the game down. I think you can end up getting that this year, and it would be a great pick. At 54, we have the Los Angeles Chargers going DJ Campbell, guard out of Texas. I think DJ Campbell, another player that I liked a lot coming into last year. He was about like a top 100 to 150 player for me, and I didn't see him on anybody's big board, but he was somebody that I still wanted to give a peek at, and he was a very solid player. I don't really think the Chargers have a need for it, so I would not take him for him. At number 55, or at least a round 2 need for him. 55, we have the Green Bay Packers going Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State. I personally think Edger and Cooper and co. have it locked down to where you don't need to spend a second round pick on it, but not going to shame them into it. I do think cornerback is the number 1 position for Green Bay to address. Los Angeles Rams go running back Jaden Ott out of Oklahoma, formerly Cal. Jaden Ott, he's a one-cut back. He really disappointed me last year, but I'm going to be real. Cal's offensive line was horrible. Not going to put that on Jaden Ott, but I do think he is a little bit worse than a second round pick. Number 57, I have a very similar opinion with Jaden Ott as well as Zachariah Branch. The San Francisco 49ers take the wide receiver out of Georgia, formerly USC. Zachariah is a fun return man. I just think that he's kind of just like a worse version of Mekhi Lemon in just a lot of categories. There's a couple other players that he might be a little bit closer to, but I just don't think Zachariah Branch is as good as what this is suggesting. And I don't think the Niners need another burner. That's just me. But, you know, I don't really see the need for the Niners. Number 58, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going Chase Bizontis. I definitely got that wrong. But guard out of Texas A&M. I have not studied the guard class in that much depth to the point where I know enough about them because there's the other guard from Texas A&M I'm a little bit more curious to get into. So we'll end up seeing him in the near future. At number 59, the Texans go Dante Corleone. So spelling mistake. You've seen me literally damn near die in the middle of the stream. So I'm not going to get on somebody for mistyping the name. But defensive interior out of Cincinnati. He's a fun player as well. I mean, the Godfather's his nickname. You can't be ass if you're the Godfather. I will just say he's like a 7th-round pick to me. He just wasn't that good last year. Well, I think Jawan Briggs might have been better than him. But now every time in the offseason, people just fall in love with Dante Corleone. I don't know. Baltimore Ravens go Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU at number 60. He's my number 1 corner right now, tied with Avion Terrell. It would make me lose my shit as a Steelers fan, so take that as you will. But Mansour Delane's a damn good player. Number 61, we have the Detroit Lions going after Thomas Rymack. Again, definitely mispronounced that. Offensive lineman out of Virginia Tech. I think they need to focus on center more than anything. So I don't believe that he is a center because I've seen other centers selected. But I do think that the Lions should be looking primarily at Jake Slaughter. They think that would be the best option for them at number 61. Number 62, we had the Buffalo Bills going pocket buster, DeMonte Capehart. I really like Capehart. He was one of the guys who I was absurdly high on compared to the consensus before he returned to school, which, in my opinion, smart thing to do. If the consensus doesn't really like you and you're better than what the consensus says, give yourself an extra year, get the NIL money, get better, and come out this year. But I do think he's a pocket buster. Don't see the fit for the Buffalo Bills because that kind of is Dwayne Carter's role. Number 63, we have the whoa. I almost had my heart sink again. Walter Footballma. I thought it said Elijah Badger. I'm like, you motherfucker. He's already on the damn team. No. Elijah Surratt, wide receiver out of Indiana, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs at number 63. Contested catch beast, like over 60%. I think his mom ends up like retweeting a lot of stuff too. So shout out to her on X. But Elijah Surratt is a really, really good addition for the Chiefs because he's a perimeter contested catch guy who's smooth as well. I really do like the addition there. I thought, if y'all know, you go back to Walter Football, God forbid, if you guys want to see me rip a mock draft apart, that'd be great for you. They had like Elijah Badger in it. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? He was a UDFA to the Chiefs. Like, what the hell? Regardless, at number 64, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going Jack Endries, tight end out of Texas. Another person whose like parents are super active on Twitter. Shout out to his dad, really good guy, ended up DMing me. But Endries is a perfect fit for Texas. I think that we could see him take a massive step going from Cal to Texas and going into a role I think he can really thrive in, to where I don't think day 2 is out of the question for him. For the Eagles, I'd want a little bit more meat on the bone, so to speak, maybe that 250 plus range, because I think if you want to replace Goddard, there's some guys in this class that more emulate what Goddard could bring. I think Miles Kitzelman would be a better option for the Eagles, but I'd honestly, based on his age, wait till round 3 even for Kitzelman. Number 65, round number 3, we got the Cleveland Browns going Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. Jacoby, as said by some of my buddies, is the most day 3 prospect, or most mid day 3 wide receiver that you can study. Like, he just embodies the mid day 3 receiver. Literally not my words. that is directly from somebody else that I know. But I just didn't think Jacoby Lane was as good as what people want to say. I kind of think he's like a worse version of George Pickens in like every aspect. Like, I had very similar vibes with George Pickens at Georgia, but obviously he was a lot more elevated as a talent. So I just don't really think he offers much. Number 66, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going defensive back Keon Staub out of Alabama, formerly Michigan. Really rangy. Could definitely see it being a possibility because the Eagles secondary is still very malleable. At number 67, we got the New Orleans Saints going Katron Allen, running back out of Penn State. I will just say, outside of Mekhi Hughes, the running backs have kind of shown me, based on the lack of variability from the consensus, I wonder how many running backs this guy has seen. And again, I mean, who am I to judge? But at the same time, I'm also not putting out 3-round mock drafts trying to, do it for a site. But I'll just put it there. Katron Allen doesn't make too much sense for me for the Saints at all, actually. I mean, you got Devin Neal there who already lacks the athleticism. Katron Allen's literally nicknamed Fat Man. I mean, he's just not a great athlete, but solid player. I do think he's better than who was selected in the first round, Nick Singleton. 68, we have the Tennessee Titans going Davison Igbinosun. If he doesn't freaking do as many penalties, he's going to be perfectly fine. But the guy just has an addiction to penalties. He's a really good player that just doesn't know how not to freaking grab the jersey. So TBD on that. We'll see. Fa'alili Fa'amo, tackle out of Wake Forest, goes to the Texans at 69, formerly out of Washington State. I really thought of him as a guard. I'm going to be honest, probably not going to change that opinion. Wake Forest offensive line is so bad, though, that maybe Fa'amo might look good by just being in a poor offensive line group. Number 70, we have the Carolina Panthers going John Mateer, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Dude has sky high ceiling. He can end up skyrocketing up into the top 5 for all I care. Crazy athleticism, crazy arm ability. He just needs to hone it in. The finer details are just what really gets to him. And number 71, we have the Indianapolis Colts going Bryce Lane, wide receiver at North Dakota State University. I do not have North Dakota State all 22. I know a running back of theirs as well, I believe, just transferred to Miami. Some people were recommending that. Excited to see when I end up getting some North Dakota State all 22, but for the time being, we can end up speculating. A lot of people love him. And for the Colts, I just don't see the targets. Again, they have 4 legitimately high-end weapons. And I'm not a fan of that. Number 72, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars going Aaron Anderson. Talked about him a little bit earlier, wide receiver at LSU. Kind of a burner, but doesn't have that same top speed. It's very intriguing. He's a good deep threat, but doesn't have the range that some of the wide receivers do. I don't understand it, but Aaron Anderson, definitely somebody who I like a lot. I think he'd be a very good compliment there at Jacksonville. So that's fair. Number 73, we have the Las Vegas Raiders going Sam Levitt. His biggest issue is processing. Actually having to grow him under Geno for 2 years as a 3rd-round pick would be a brilliant idea. At 74, we have the Atlanta Falcons going Zane Durant, defensive interior out of Penn State. He's going to end up being much later than this. Just the problem is the processing of the game. The guy's IQ is just pretty much on the floor. Not calling him a dumb person, but in terms of just understanding what's going on in the play, the amount of times I've seen Zane Durant literally just, for a lack of a better term, kamikaze the offensive lineman without knowing where the ball is going, it just kind of blows my mind. He ended up, I was watching a running back, I believe it was, no, it wasn't Terrion Stewart because he didn't play him. He played at Texas A&M. There was another running back I ended up watching versus Penn State earlier today. And literally Zane Durant kind of blew up the offensive lineman, but he just ended up, it's his own blocking scheme. So he took the right shoulder and ended up, pretty much blowing it up. He did not know the running back was there because I could tell he got into the backfield, or essentially the backfield for a lack of a better term. And then he ended up looking around for the ball. And I'm like, brother, it's great that you can do that, but it's you got to know where the ball is. Who gives a crap? If you blow up the play in the wrong direction, you're still not helping out your team. So that's my big issue with Zane, but he's a crazy athlete. Definitely could end up being a good player if everything starts to click. Zeke Berry, cornerback out of Michigan, goes at 75 to the Arizona Cardinals. Going to be honest, did not study him. Studied 40 corners, did not study this guy. So TBD. I studied the other Michigan corner as well. Michael Taoff, defensive back out of Texas, goes to the Steelers at 76. I'm not going to get on this guy for it because it happened after the fact. We just ended up, I believe, re-extending to Sean Elliott. But I still think defensive back is a position we can end up targeting, getting some good depth, getting some competition there. So I'm not going to blame him too much. 77, we have the Miami Dolphins going Sawyer Robertson, quarterback out of Baylor. My big issue for Sawyer to Miami, Sawyer is used to really good pass blocking there at Baylor. Damn near no pressure. So I just really worry when the offensive line has just been such a consistent issue for Miami. If it is not, this is a good move. But if it's also not, Miami might be picking a lot later, and they might not be looking for a quarterback. Number 78, we have the New England Patriots also going to Baylor for Josh Cameron. Love Baylor. Got to see Josh Cameron and Sawyer Robertson in person. Josh Cameron is pretty much the on-sale version of A.J. Brown, so I could really see, you could end up seeing Vrabel really falling in love with Josh Cameron. I just don't think he has the athletic potential to go on day 2. I think he'll definitely be a later day 3 guy, but I love the fit. At 79, we have the Seahawks going Lawson Lucky, tight end out of Georgia. The problem with Lawson Lucky is that he has, I believe, a 0% contested catch percentage on his entire career. He's just not played the tight end position at the NFL level. He hasn't had any translatable reps in terms of being a full-time NFL tight end. You need to see the whole encapsulation, and it's very tough to project but he's a very good athlete. He has some flashes, and that's worth taking a shot on. But he did not crack my top 15 tight ends. At number 80, we have the Chicago Bears going Tristan Lee, left tackle out of Clemson. I don't get this personally. I don't think Tristan Lee's any better than Braxton Jones. Tristan Lee's a very fun player, great motor. Problem is, this guy's not a great blocker. It's weird to say, but he's just not a great blocker. Ends up getting block shed all the time, too toesy, but I mean, his wins are dominant. His losses, pretty bad too. At number 81, we have the Miami Dolphins going Drew Shelton, tackle out of Penn State. I know Josh Kando also should be in this mix, but Penn State has some really solid offensive linemen. They know how to develop them. So I'm not surprised, especially if you end up getting Sawyer Robertson, if you guys want to continue developing the offensive line. 82, we had the Minnesota Vikings going CJ Baxter, running back out of Texas. I will just say, from some other people that I've seen their boards, they have CJ Baxter as a UDFA. I will be grading CJ Baxter myself, but just going to be honest, he did not pop off to me either. Number 83, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers going Connor Liu, offensive lineman out of Auburn. We need all the offensive line help that we can get. I do think that, there's certain positions that can definitely be overvalued in terms of how much we need it. I believe on the interior of the offensive line. But in terms of tackle, I don't think that we're sold. I think we still have 2 tackle positions to fill, because I think Fontenot might end up having to be a guard. That just depends on how healthy he is. I just don't know with his knee and everything if he's going to maintain that NFL athleticism as a tackle. At number 84, we have the Denver Broncos going Jason Barham, linebacker out of Michigan. He's a really fun player to watch, man. I fell in love with him as a true freshman at Maryland. So, this is a guy I've been a fan of for a long time. I had him as around that 150 range, and I thought it was a great idea for him to return to Michigan and polish up more. Tampa Bay Buccaneers go after a very intriguing player here in Harold Perkins Jr., linebacker / edge rusher at LSU. He's in that 220 range. I think he's trying to get close to that 230, but to be able to have someone as a linebacker / Hassan Reddick hybrid, I'd be a fan of it. At 86, we have the Los Angeles Chargers going Eli Stowers, tight end out of Vanderbilt. Quicker than fast, but a really dynamic athlete. Just 235 is going to be tough. I do think that the Chargers are in a pretty good spot, though, to be able to take a certain game-changing weapon there, and Stowers could end up being that. 87, we had the Green Bay Packers going Justice Haynes, a running back out of Michigan. Another one of those running backs that I will be ending up studying, so feel free to drop some recommendations as well. I do have a tweet out there, which you guys can end up seeing what I've already studied. Technically, I've studied quite a few more since then, but at the same time, Justice Haynes was one of these suggestions. So TBD on that. But the Los Angeles Rams go after left tackle Trey Zune out of Texas A&M. He was somebody who was about 120 for me coming into last year. I think that returning was a good idea, and we'll see if Marcel Reed gets a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. Otherwise, we might have a bit more difficulty with seeing how Trey Zune can end up operating an NFL pocket as the blindside blocker. At number 89, we have the San Francisco 49ers going Oscar Delp, tight end out of Georgia. One of the best route runners at tight end that you can study. He really is like a wide receiver at tight end, but very similar to Lawson Lucky. Not a lot of translatable tight end tape because they kind of just used him as a wide receiver, and the system didn't really put him in a lot of contested catch situations. At number 90, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech, formerly Stanford. Really productive. I just don't see the build. I think he's up to 250, though, so he might be able to work a little bit better, but they like bigger guys. Don't think David Bailey fits that. 91, we have the Commanders going Thaddeus Dixon, cornerback out of North Carolina. He's a heavy-hitting player. He's pretty damn smart as well. I think he can end up having a really solid career. So at 91, the value's right. In 92, the Baltimore Ravens go Aiden Childs, quarterback out of Michigan State. If Aiden has any indication that he's not going to be like a first-round pick, I highly doubt he comes out. He's 19 years old, and he has great mobility, good arm. Processor still working, but it is a pro-style system, so I understand. At 93, we have the Jaguars going safety, Amari Farrell out of Indiana. Have not studied him, and I have not seen him pop off. And I love Indiana DBs, though. D'Angelo Pons, sign me up. I call him Velcro Pons. But Amari Farrell, have not seen that. So TBD. But again, I do kind of worry because Caleb Ransaw should be taking that role, and I really, really liked Caleb Ransaw. At 94, the Buffalo Bills going Gabe Jacaw. Nope. It's not Jacaw. The S is not silent. The J is silent. Gabe Akis, edge rusher out of Illinois. He's a very fun one. Again, it just kind of feels like overload. The Bills drafted a larger edge rusher earlier as well. I don't really see that really paying off. I don't understand the redundancy there. 95 with the Chiefs going Lander Barton, linebacker out of Utah. One of the highest graded linebackers, if not the highest, going into summer scouting of last year. We'll see if he ends up being a high floor option in the third round. 96, we have the Eagles going edge rusher with Patrick Payton out of LSU, formerly out of Florida State. He is someone who took a really, really small step last year, if at all forward, maybe even a big step backwards to some people. I saw him as extremely underdeveloped, and he still showed it. We'll see if LSU changes that. And then last but not least, okay, it was Brentley Wiseman. Last but not least, number 97 with the Jacksonville Jaguars going Riley Mahlman, right tackle out of Wisconsin. I honestly think he might have to be an Andreas Pete guard. I did not like his movement skills. Very underwhelming. Everyone I've talked to says that he's pretty underwhelming. So, I mean, overall, I mean, again, for this early in the year, there's a whole lot of BS that goes around. Brentley Wiseman actually did not do that in this. So shout out to him. We all will have very differing views, and I respect that. That's why I have a board below my face. So you know that I too have a very unique opinion. But I've seen a lot of mock drafts that are absolute cheeks. This is not one of them. I can understand the logic behind like about 90% of these, even if I don't agree with it. So that's a pretty damn high rate. So shout out to Brentley. Thank you again for watching. Love you. See you later. Peace.